Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Matt Morris. We are live right now on YouTube as well as on Rumble at Matt Morris TV. Ladies and gentlemen, right this very moment, the World Economic Forum, the WEF, is taking place in Davos. That's in Switzerland. This is the world's largest single gathering of globalist elites and cosmopolitan politicians. Now, of course, as the leader of the free world with massive ongoing trade deals and land negotiations, we're looking at Greenland right now, President Trump is going to be actually attending this summit tomorrow morning, but already today, various officials from the Trump administration are already on site in Davos, Switzerland, and have already started absolutely cooking all of the World Economic Forum globalists. In fact, earlier today, we actually got some pretty massive updates regarding Greenland, President Trump's tariffs on numerous European countries, and President Trump's brand new ultimatum for all of our European allies, as we will call them for the time being. So, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a look at all of that. It's going to be a massive day, but also today, just a couple hours ago, in fact, we got some absolutely shocking new information about a very curious situation that is currently unfolding back here at home in the United States of America. So make sure to stick around for today's entire broadcast. Between you and me, I think all of you are going to particularly enjoy the second half of today's show, really the entire show. But, you know, this is going to be one of those broadcasts where it kind of gets a little bit crazier and crazier and crazier as the broadcast goes on. So make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Thank you all for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we should go ahead and kick off this broadcast by taking a look at what happened earlier today at the World Economic Forum. First off, we're going to take a listen to President Trump's Economic Counsel, Howard Lutnick, and what he had to say over in Switzerland. By the way, you are going to like this. Take a listen here, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I think you should start at a much higher level. Okay? We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that...
I'm sorry, look at all of their faces. These are a bunch of European bureaucrats, global elite, globalists. They're up here on the stage of the World Economic Forum, and Howard Lutnick, representing the Trump administration, he gets up here at the opening speech and he says, listen, this entire model of globalism, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked for you. It hasn't worked for us. It's over. The era of globalism is over. The era of America First is now. Do they look happy? Do any of them look particularly happy about this? No. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. It's too bad. Too bad for them.
Model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
Howard Lutnick just got up here and called all of these European globalists a bunch of moronic idiots. Is effectively, he said, hey, listen, the world economic is spineless. It is a reed blowing in the wind. It has not 1 ounce, not one vertebra of a backbone. It's making terrible, incompetent decision after terrible, incompetent decision. Your entire model, hey, World Economic Forum, your entire model could not be stupider. And here I am. It takes an American to get up on the stage and say, listen, you guys are idiots. We are not doing this anymore. The days of globalism are over. Now it is the day of America first. And so this is how we kicked off the day. Everybody says, I saw some of you 5 minutes ago saying, really, Matt, why are we going to watch footage from the World Economic Forum? Really? Yeah, well, this is why. Yeah, well, now you know why. Because the Trump administration is absolutely torching these people. Now we hear from Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent. What has he got to say?
What do you want to say about the NATO alliance then? I mean, Denmark has been a long ally, the European Union united against any move. How do you progress with what looks like a strategic move for the United States, but also preserve the alliance, the NATO alliance?
Well, look, I think that the NATO alliance is very safe, sound, and thanks to President Trump, it's never been more secure. When President Trump came in his first term, the European countries and Canada were not meeting their spending quotas as a percent of GDP. Now they are. Right. They got a lot of catch up to do. And Maria, to put it in perspective, the United States of America since 1980 has contributed $22 trillion more dollars, or spent $22 trillion more dollars on defense than all of NATO. So roughly the same size population. And we have spent $22 trillion more. That is 2/3 of our outstanding government debt. The Europeans have been spending the money on social welfare, on roads, on education,
on importing immigrants from the Middle East and Africa.
And it's time for them to pay more, which they've agreed to do.
Yeah.
Which they have agreed to do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to put a visual in front of your eyes here, to really put everything he just said into context, we're going to shoot from the hip here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the NATO defense expenditure chart for 2022 as just a good example I have on hand here. Ladies and gentlemen, so first thing, everybody look at the right column over here, right here, where it says percent of real GDP. Contractually, you sign an agreement whenever your country joins NATO, you agree to do this. You're supposed to pay 2% of your country's GDP into the NATO defense budget. So you can see as of 2022, all of these countries that are in the red, these are countries that are not meeting their 2% NATO contractually agreed upon defense contribution. Over half of the NATO countries were delinquent for decades. This is 2022 specifically, but this is how they operated for decades since the creation of NATO. So they're like, yeah, we want to be a NATO. It's really important. We got to worry about European continental defense. We need to really take care of ourselves. But then almost none of them were paying at least the amount that they agreed to pay. In fact, as of 2022, you only have like probably 6 or 7 different countries that were paying their contractually agreed upon 2%. Now, Greece was hitting it out of the park. Greece has a really small economy, but they were doing 3.76. Okay, good for them. America, we've got a massive economy. We were doing 3.47. So, ladies and gentlemen, The United States, we have been surpassing our 2% contractual agreement for a very long time. And then, of course, on top of that, we have a massive economy. So when I say that the United States has been single-handedly subsidizing European continental defense for 80 years, following the conclusion of World War II after 1945, like seriously, we have been subsidizing the entirety, almost the entirety, 90% at a minimum of European continental defense. So just to put all of this into perspective, let's just get all the numbers out here on the table. This is what Scott Bessent was talking about. Now, Howard Lutnick goes on to say, because the Europeans, they are very upset about Greenland, this entire Greenland dynamic. Let's see what Howard Lutnick has got to say about that today. Of course, they had to ask him,
Can I bring you back to Greenland?
No.
No.
It's unnecessary. It's the Western Hemisphere is vital for the United States of America. Our national security people are on it, and they care about it, and I'm going to leave it to them to address with our allies, with our friends, and with everyone how they work it out. But the Western Hemisphere matters to the United States of America, and the United States of America, as I've just articulated, really, really matters to the world. When America shines, the world shines, because they all need to make sure America is strong and powerful to take care of them, God forbid. And so I think America and the Western Hemisphere are vital to America, and I'm going to leave that to my national security people to address.
So pretty much what he's saying is he's saying, listen, we are going to have Greenland. This is a non-negotiable. I'm not going to sit up here on the stage at the World Economic Forum with a bunch of European globalists and have a debate with you. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. I'm not going to debate you. It is happening. It is a non-negotiable. We are going to get Greenland one way or another. We are going to have Greenland. So he says, no, I'm not going to have an argument with you, with all of you globalists. No, it's not up for debate. It is happening. Scott Bessent, he adds to the conversation here.
The plans for tariffs on Europe then?
Well, we're in the midst of completing a very good trade deal for both sides. So the plan is to go ahead with the trade deal. Of course, the president has said that he, on February 1st, will implement a 10% tariff if the Danes do not want to give up Greenland. And it is on the 8 countries that sent troops to Greenland.
So what do you want the plans for tariffs?
8 countries have chosen to send recently. We all saw this, send soldiers. Like, when I say soldiers, I mean like 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 12 at most. Some European countries conducted a training exercise on Greenland in solidarity with Denmark to push back on Trump's rhetoric right now. Well, guess what? They are getting hit with tariffs also. Trump said that starting February 1st, if we have not reached a deal in 10 or 11 days, if we have not reached a deal on how to navigate this Greenland situation, then we will apply those 10% tariffs. And if by June 1st, another couple months from now, in summer, if we have still not reached a deal, those tariffs will bump up to 25%. So Trump is using the power of the tariff, leveraging America's economic might. And by the way, it seems like we're making good progress here. I'm going to give you some updates as it pertains to Greenland. We are making progress. If I had to bet money at a Las Vegas betting table right now, we are going to have Greenland. I would bet so. Now, Scott Bessent, he said something absolutely hilarious. He gets asked a question. Listen to his response.
Just to follow into that, so you do not believe that the EU or the UK have any retaliatory financial instruments or measures in their bag that the United States should be worried about?
No. So are you worried about Mr. Bessent, Secretary of the Treasury? Are you worried that the United Kingdom or France, they have any economic tools that they could use to harm the United States in the midst of all of this drama surrounding Greenland? No, I'm not worried. No, we're not worried. No, they can't do anything. No, they are helpless. Actually, yeah, no, they are helpless. No, they can't do anything. They can't do anything about it because they are helpless. So that is the statement from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent earlier today. Now, President Trump had a conversation with NATO Chief Mark Rutte, who is, I believe he's from the Netherlands. Maybe he's from Denmark. I'm not sure, one of the two. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He said that today, a couple hours ago, he said he is, quote, committed to working with U.S. President Trump to, quote, find a way forward on Greenland. This is the NATO chief. He says, we are committed to finding a way forward with Greenland, with Donald Trump, with the United States. So already we are seeing the cracks. The cracks are already starting to show. President Trump's pressure campaign. Listen, we've seen this time and time again. President Trump, maybe this sounds bad, I don't know, but that's how I describe it. President Trump is a noose tightener. He slowly tightens the noose. He applies pressure until he gets what he wants. And we have seen this with the previous European trade deal he made over the summer, where he got all the NATO member countries to bump up their NATO contributions from 2%, which we just saw a lot of them weren't even there. He got them to bump up and commit to 5%, worked out a new trade deal with the European Union, which was highly advantageous for the United States and a little bit disadvantageous for Europe. Europeans were very mad about that one about 6 or 7 months ago. Trump has applied a pressure campaign slowly on Russia and on Venezuela. And he's doing this all over the world. This is what Trump does. He is a noose tightener, as I put it. Now, President Trump earlier today, he issued a statement. He said, quote, there is no going back on Greenland. Trump doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down. I've lost count of how many times we've gone down here. We have pentupled down. Trump says there's no going back. Listen, this is non-negotiable. We are going to have Greenland. This is not over until we have Greenland. We are not done. We are not walking away from this table until it is ours. That's where Trump is. That is where Trump is right now. And then, after making that statement, Trump took to Truth Social to post a couple photos. This is from his account earlier today, a couple hours ago. First off, he posted a photo of him hoisting an American flag in Greenland. It says U.S. territory established 2026 alongside Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance. So he posted this earlier today. And then he posted this earlier today. This appears to be a photoshopped image of all of the European leaders, a lot of the European leaders sitting in the Oval Office from when they were in D.C. a couple months ago. And behind them is a map that shows the United States, Canada, and Greenland, and Venezuela down there with the beautiful red, white, and blue. And Trump is telling them, hey, listen, this is just what it's going to be. Hey, listen, this is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to be. Trump posted this. So Trump is, he's spreading the memes. He's getting jiggy with it. Now, Scott Bessent went on to talk about this entire dynamic. Take a listen to this.
We are still NATO allies. The NATO relationship is strong. And President Trump just believes that the U.S. needs Greenland because no one will make a move on it then. If the Europeans have it, if Denmark has it, what if Russia, what if China makes a move, then we're part of NATO, we'll get pulled in. Isn't it much better that in advance just to cede it to the U.S. and then it has U.S. protection? Because I can tell you, I believe that what President Trump is influenced by is our great allies in the U.K., they have a base on an island. We share a military facility on an island called Diego Garcia, and the UK is giving that island to Mauritius. And guess who is behind Mauritius? The Chinese. So we needed to own that island, but the Brits are giving it up.
We can have a great conversation about Diego Garcia real quick, but one of the narratives that we are hearing from the European Union, from the Europeans, just try to make sense of this because you can't. This is nonsensical. The Europeans right now, they're saying, well, listen, you don't need to worry. None of us need to worry about Russia or China invading Greenland, because Greenland, it's kind of ours. You know, Greenland, by the way, it's kind of autonomous. It's kind of not autonomous. There's a debate whether or not Greenland is like independent or if it's a part of NATO. It's kind of in this gray zone. In 2008 and 2009, Greenland had an independence referendum. They didn't vote to become completely independent, but they voted for more independence. They passed, it was called like the Greenland Independence Autonomous Law in 2008. And so it's Greenland right now is already kind of in this gray zone. Denmark has already said, hey, it's up to the people of Greenland to decide whether or not they want to, go which way. And so Greenland already it doesn't really belong to Denmark. Denmark has already ceded that responsibility. Denmark has explicitly said, they've maintained for about 3 decades now, that whenever Greenland decides to vote to no longer be a part of Denmark, that's their right, and they'll let them go. That is a big problem, because right now we are hearing from the European Union that, well, we don't need to worry about Russia or China invading Greenland because, we can protect them. Very clearly you can't. And we've all seen why. What happened 4 years ago in Eastern Europe? We saw Russia invade a similarly kind of gray zone country. They were on the cusp of joining NATO, but they weren't NATO yet. And so Russia invaded. And now we've had a 4-year-long, very bloody, very brutal, elongated war that, by the way, Europe has done almost nothing to solve. Trump is on the cusp of solving this war and bringing peace about to the situation. But very clearly, Europe is actually not able to defend Ukraine or Greenland at some point in the future, God forbid. And you know for a fact that both China and Russia, they are looking at Greenland right now like a dog is looking at a T-bone steak. They're licking their lips. They're licking their lips while they look at it because they know that Europe is not able to defend it. And so when somebody says, why does America need to have Greenland? Why does Greenland need to be an American territory? Well, we need to have it because we are the only ones that can defend it. We need to have it because Denmark cannot defend it. The entirety of Europe cannot defend it. So why does America need to have it? Because we are the only ones that can defend it. This is not just an American national security issue. This is a Western hemispheric national security issue. If you want to talk about the Monroe Doctrine, this is a NATO national security issue. Really, it is. Honestly, Europe, if they had any wherewithal, if they had any sense, Europe would be begging us to take it. They would be trying to sell it to us right now, but instead they're digging their heels in the dirt, really just out of pride or hubris. I'm not sure. In fact, here's a very curious statement. It kind of piggybacks on this point I'm making here. Earlier today, we got a statement from Russia's foreign minister, a guy named Sergei Lavrov. He said, quote, Greenland is not a natural part of Denmark. This is Russia's foreign minister, Lavrov. He said, Greenland is not a part of Denmark. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think Lavrov said this today? Why did Sergei Lavrov issue this statement today? Do you think Lavrov is saying this in order to help America acquire Greenland? Or do you think Lavrov has a pro-Russian purpose with saying this? And by the way, he's right. Greenland is not really a part of Denmark, but I promise you, Lavrov is not saying this to help America in our ongoing attempted acquisition of the island. No, Lavrov is saying this because, like I said, the Russians right this very moment, and the Chinese as well, they are looking at this island like a dog licking its lips, staring down a T-bone steak. That is why Russia's foreign minister says that. That is why he says this, to put all of this into perspective here. Now, President Trump, he issued yet another statement. President Trump has been a busy guy all day today. He posted on Truth Social, he said, and I quote, no single person or president has done more for NATO than President Donald J. Trump. If I didn't come along, there would be no NATO right now. It would have been in the ash heap of history. Sad but true. President Donald J. Trump. And by the way, in large part, I think he's pretty much totally right. Also, here's another component here. I'm going to even supersede this. Well, let's go up a step on the ladder here. if there was no United States, there would be no Europe. Once again, the United States of America, we, the American people, we have been subsidizing and paying for Europe's continental defense, the entirety of Europe's continental defense for 80 years. Everybody says, well, all the Europeans, they'd be speaking German right now. More importantly, all the Europeans, they would be speaking Russian right now, if not for us. If not for America getting involved, boots on the ground, military bases, it's the Marshall Plan, it's rebuilding the continent, it's applying NATO eastward pressure towards the Soviet Union prior to the collapse. If not for us, every single European person on that continent would be speaking Russian and drinking cheap vodka. To put this into perspective, okay? So have a little bit of grace, my Europeans. Listen, I love Europeans. I love them here. But let's be mindful of what the dynamic is. Without the United States, there would be no Europe right now. Quite literally, inarguably. So when Trump comes out here and says, Europe, we need Greenland for our hemispheric defense. It's good for NATO. It's good for America. It's good for the Monroe Doctrine. And we're willing to buy it from you. The number I've heard floated around is $700 billion. That's a lot of money. And still, they are effectively spitting in our face. They're putting their nose up in the air and spitting in our face over the fact. The disrespect is getting a little bit crazy. The brazen disrespect is getting a little bit crazy. Now, President Trump, just at a press conference 20 minutes ago, President Trump issued a statement. Take a listen to this.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
President Trump, how far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland? You will find out. You are going to find out. Well, as they say, first you F around, then you find out. President Trump is promising the find out phase. President Trump, just 20 minutes ago, has promised that there will be, in fact, a find out phase to this entire ongoing dynamic. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about our European allies. Like I said, the World Economic Forum is going on right this very moment. We heard from French President Emmanuel Macron, who has a very beautiful wife, lovely wife, one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. And Macron came out here and he's talking about China. Take a listen to this.
China is welcome, but what we need is more Chinese foreign direct investment in Europe in some key sectors to contribute to our growth, to transfer some technologies, and not just to export towards Europe some devices or products which sometimes don't have the same standards or are much more subsidized as the one being produced in Europe.
So Macron, president of France, by the way, he's going to be gone in about less than 12 months. They're having another election at the end of the year. So Macron is not going to be the president of France for very much longer. Anyway, he says, listen, you know what we need to have? You know what Europe needs right now? We need more Chinese influence. We need more Chinese influence. We need more Chinese investment. We want China to be more involved with Europe. Is that right? Is that right? Okay. All right, then. And of course, he's saying this as all of this drama, perhaps, is what we can call it, with Greenland is ongoing. He's wearing these sunglasses. I guess he thinks he's just the coolest guy in the world. He's super badass. Look at the sunglasses. He's super cool. We also got the news today that the United Kingdom, under Keir Starmer's government, maybe regime is a better word, the United Kingdom has approved a mega Chinese embassy in London, downtown London, despite national security risks. The embassy includes an expansive basement complex near the United Kingdom's most sensitive communication cables. I read a big article about this about a week ago. This is before the embassy got approved. Now it is approved. There is a massive data center with communication cables in the United Kingdom downtown, and China is building their embassy with a basement complex immediately adjacent to this data center with communication cables. And Starmer has approved it. And Starmer has approved it. In the United States, we are kicking China out. We're taking back their farmland. We're kicking China out. In the United Kingdom, they are beckoning them in. Seems to be the same dynamic in France. French President Macron says China is welcome. Bring them on in. We want more Chinese involvement in the European Union, in France, and the United Kingdom. We love it. Now, let's go ahead and talk about this island called Diego Garcia that Scott Bessent mentioned here a moment ago, because President Trump issued a statement. Trump is not happy about this. He issued a statement about this island earlier this morning. He said, and I quote, "Shockingly, our brilliant NATO ally, the United Kingdom, is currently planning to give away the island of Diego Garcia, the site of a vital U.S. military base, to Mauritius," that's another country, "and to do so for no reason whatsoever. There is no doubt that China and Russia have noticed this act of total weakness. These are international powers who only recognize strength, which is why the United States of America, under my leadership, is now, after only 1 year, respected like never before. The United Kingdom giving away extremely important land is an act of great stupidity. Great stupidity," he says, in all caps, "and is another in a very long line of national security reasons why Greenland has to be acquired. Denmark and its European allies have to do the right thing. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump of the United States of America." Now, for those of you that don't know, let's put this on a map here. Ladies and gentlemen, this red dot, by the way, there's India, there's Africa, there's Europe, all the way up here. Okay, this red dot here in the middle of the Indian Ocean, this is where Diego Garcia is. I'm going to zoom in. The United Kingdom, they own this little island. This is called Diego Garcia. As you can see, you zoom in, we actually have a U.S. military airbase. In fact, on numerous occasions, we have parked B-2 Spirit stealth bombers on this island in case we have to bomb Iran or somebody in the Middle East. For those of you that were tuning in over the summer when Operation Midnight Hammer was carried out, we had numerous B-2 stealth bombers parked on this island, our airbase, our base here on Diego Garcia. And so technically, we've got a base here, but the United Kingdom owns it. They have decided to give this island up to a small island nation called Mauritius. Mauritius is over here. Little tiny country nobody has ever heard of. It's over here. And by the way, to put this into perspective, it's right off the coast of Madagascar. Well, kind of off the coast of Madagascar. It is, I did the math on this, 1,300 miles. 1,300 miles disjointed. Open ocean. But Mauritius has made a claim that they own this island, saying that they ought to have sovereignty of Diego Garcia. Now, for some reason, the Mauritians believe that they should have a sovereign claim to the island, despite having no capacity to defend, colonize, or inhabit the island. And once again, it's 1,300 miles away from the island country of Mauritius. And so, you know what's insane is that the United Kingdom, they have decided, okay, we'll give it to you. They're in the process of giving it to them. And so once again, this is a topic that we've talked about numerous times. And by the way, yes, like Scott Bessent said, Mauritius does have ties to both China and Russia. You know, China and Russia are very happy about this development. At a time when Russia and China are aggressively expanding out, trying to take more land and take more territory, what do you see the European Union doing? They are refusing to defend the territory they already have. In fact, sometimes they're just giving it up. They're giving it away. They're giving away highly geostrategic islands, points on the map like this, just because, I don't know, they feel like it. It's the noble thing to do. It really is unbelievable. President Trump earlier today, he said China and Russia have noticed the United Kingdom's, quote, great stupidity. And I'm sure they have. President Putin's special envoy, Kirill Dmitriev, says the United Kingdom and the European Union have, quote, no cards and no financial retaliation against that they can use against the United States. You hear this? Russia is saying, by the way, properly acknowledging that the European Union, they can't really do anything to counter some of the stuff the United States is doing right now. They don't have the cards. President Trump is saying this. Scott Bessent is saying this. Howard Lutnick is saying this. Even some of the European member countries, even Giorgia Meloni in Italy has said something to this effect. Orban in Hungary has said something to this effect. It's just kind of true. It is just kind of the truth. Nobody can really stop the United States. We are running the show. Now, there's one more thing I want to show you here. Trump, earlier today on Truth Social, posted something, or rather reposted something very curious, something incredibly curious. Another user on Truth Social posted this, and I quote, "So at what point are we going to realize the enemy is within? China and Russia are the boogeymen when the real threat is the United Nations, NATO, and this religion." I put religion in quotes because it's not a religion. It's a cult. Yeah, I went there. Donald Trump took that and reposted it. Donald Trump, the president of the United States, reposted this saying that, yeah, China and Russia, maybe they're threats, but really they're more boogeymen. Really the threat to the United States, Donald Trump reposted this. He said, the real threat is the United Nations. The real threat is NATO. The real threat is this religion. By the way, the religion we're talking about here, before anybody goes crazy, it is Islam. It is Islam. Because right below this post was a video of, it was Nick Shirley talking to some Islamic Somalians. So the religion we're talking about is Islam, saying it's more of a cult is what this post says. But also the real threat here is the United Nations and NATO, is what Donald Trump himself posted. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you something here, or I want to tell you something here. President Trump he just gave a press conference in the White House press conference room. He is now stepping aboard Air Force One momentarily. Maybe he's already on board. He is going to fly to Davos, Switzerland tonight. Tomorrow, President Trump is going to be speaking himself. He's on his way there now. President Trump is going to be speaking at the World Economic Forum tomorrow morning, early in the morning. I think I will probably go live. I'm going to get out of bed early, and I want to watch that with you folks live. I think it's happening at like 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Western. That's my time. So we are going to watch that tomorrow, because if you saw Scott Bessent absolutely cook the World Economic Forum, these globalists, and if we saw Howard Lutnick earlier today cook the World Economic Forum and all of these globalists, what do you think Donald Trump is going to have to say? What do you think tomorrow morning, once he arrives on the scene, once the leader of the world arrives on the scene, what do you think he's going to have to say? We're going to find out. We're going to find out tomorrow. So make sure to be here tomorrow morning. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something else I want to talk to you folks about. We're going to kind of change up the subject here a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, we just got, earlier today, a couple hours ago, some very interesting data confirming the serious degree to which Americans across the country are absolutely fed up with all of the lawlessness, corruption, subversive, anti-American behavior that has been unfolding across our country. And so really, folks, I just need to be blunt right now. President Trump has a very serious decision to make, and he will be making this decision very soon. But before we talk about what that decision is, I want to show you something to kick off this entire conversation. Earlier today, we got some new polling data. This polling data is coming out of, what is this? This is from Axios Visual's data from More in Common. It confirms, it says this here, 49% of young Trump voters say that America, one, needs more masculinity. 49% of young Americans, young American Trump voters, this country needs more masculinity. Similarly, 48% say that Trump needs to act urgently to fix, to save America, even if it means ignoring SCOTUS rulings. What is SCOTUS? The Supreme Court of the United States of America. 48% of young Americans in this country think that Donald Trump should ignore the Supreme Court and do what he must, do what he needs to do in order to save this nation. Gen Z, there you have it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I would like to go through some American history because I want to put all of this into context. So why don't we rewind back to the 1860s, 160 years ago, during our first American Civil War. And I say first American Civil War because a lot of people right now, you hear it, a lot of people are saying that right now, right this moment, we are perhaps in sort of a cold civil war. Does it feel like that's the case? Sometimes it does feel that way. But let's rewind back to our first American Civil War. Let's talk about Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest presidents in all of United States history. Abraham Lincoln, I don't know how many of you know this, actually suspended habeas corpus, effectively suspending legal due process. He got rid of legal due process. It's called habeas corpus. He suspended it. Then the Supreme Court issued a ruling saying, hey, Abraham Lincoln, you're not allowed to do that. You know what Abraham Lincoln did? He ignored the Supreme Court and he continued tossing out due process. He continued with his suspension of habeas corpus in direct and open defiance of that Supreme Court ruling. Then, after ignoring the Supreme Court, he went on to ignore numerous federal court rulings as well in the lower courts, completely ignoring the federal judiciary altogether. Then he imprisoned and detained his political opposition that were actively working to destroy the republic. This is Lincoln. Then he went on to imprison numerous members of the media, members of the press that were similarly working to undermine his administration, as well as members of the foreign media that were similarly working to destroy the republic. But you know, the most important thing that Abraham Lincoln did, the most important thing that he did, it's not suspending habeas corpus. It's not defying the Supreme Court. It's not ignoring the lower federal courts. The most important thing Abraham Lincoln did is that, in fact, he did save this republic. And the only way he was able to do that was to do the things he had to do. And he did them, and he was successful. He saved the republic. Now, let's have a little bit of a history lesson here. Let's go way back. Let's go way back beyond the 1860s, the United States Civil War. Let's talk about an old Roman leader who went by the name of Cincinnatus, who actually, this individual, this Roman leader, Cincinnatus, actually inspired many of our great Revolutionary era Americans in the 1770s and 1780s. Many of our founding fathers, in fact, were inspired by this old Roman leader, Cincinnatus. Now, Cincinnatus was alive during the 5th century BC, right around 500 years before the birth of Christ, to put this on a timeline here. Cincinnatus was a Roman man who was a highly regarded military leader, a tactician, if you will. He was the best of the best, although he had gotten old and he retired from the military, from his service to Rome, to live on his family farm alongside his wife and his children and his grandchildren. He was retired. Now, during Cincinnatus's retirement, I'll tell you, to say the least, all hell broke loose. To give you some idea of what I'm talking about, there were invading armies attacking Rome from the east, from the north, and many people at the time believed that Rome was on the cusp of being conquered. They were about to lose everything. Rome was facing existential crisis. And so, in a desperate, last-ditch Hail Mary play, the Roman Senate at the time actually approached Cincinnatus as he was toiling away on his family farm in his retirement, and they begged Cincinnatus to return out of retirement, come back out of retirement, take command of the legions, and save Rome. And they even promised to make him a dictator. They promised Cincinnatus, they said, save us, save our republic, save Rome, and we'll give you whatever you want. You can be the dictator, but please, you have to come back and save us. And so Cincinnatus, out of patriotic obligation, he was a Roman. He loved Rome. He did, in fact, come out of retirement, and he arose to the occasion. He became dictator of Rome, and he took control of the army, and he took control of the government. You know what happened next? Can you guess? Do you want to know what happened next here? 16 days later, 16, a little over 2 weeks, Rome had been saved. Cincinnatus rallied the legions. He rallied the troops, and he defeated all of Rome's enemies. To the east and to the north, he saved Rome in less than 3 weeks. Under this man's leadership, 3 weeks ago, existential crisis, all hope is lost. Cincinnatus takes dictatorial control of the country, and he saves the republic. But you know, that's actually not even the most impressive thing that Cincinnatus was able to accomplish. Because really, this is the reason. Like I said, Cincinnatus inspired an entire generation of Americans 250 years ago. As you might guess, our great city, Cincinnati, is named after Cincinnatus. He inspired George Washington. He inspired our founding fathers, not by his military conquests, but by what he did next. Let me tell you what he did. After achieving complete and total domination, after his task was complete, the moment, in fact, he achieved complete and total victory, you know what he did? He relinquished control. He gave the power back to the Senate, back to the people of Rome. He stepped down as a dictator, relinquishing all of the infinite, unlimited power he had, instead choosing to retire back to his farm to work alongside his wife and his children and his grandchildren, just as he had been doing less than 3 weeks ago. Now, the reason I tell you this story is because a lot of people, they say that, I don't know how many of you have heard this, they say that George Washington was a modern day Cincinnatus of his era during the birth of the United States of America. In fact, let me tell you another story here as it pertains to George Washington this time. In December of 1776, the very early days of the Revolutionary War against the British, the world's greatest empire at the time, to be honest, the American colonialists weren't exactly doing that well. Things were looking dire, to say the least. And so the American Colonial Congress, yes, there was a Congress of the colonies. Before we were actually a country, there was a Colonial Congress. The American Colonial Congress actually did exactly what the Roman Senate had done 2,300 years prior. They held a vote, and they voted to give George Washington, and I quote, full, ample, and complete total authority. In essence, the American Colonial Congress held a vote. They made George Washington the dictator, if you will. They said, George, Mr. Washington, things are looking dire. Things are not looking good. We are going to let you do whatever you need to do. If you can manage to win this war, fight and earn our independence and build this republic and push back the British Empire across the Atlantic. And then at this point in the story, I think you all kind of know what happened. Washington went on to win the revolution. Then he relinquished his dictatorial powers, just as Cincinnatus had done 2,300 years prior. Ultimately, then, Washington went on to become the democratically elected president, our first president of the United States of America. And then, notably, again, 2 terms later, 8 years later, Washington ultimately relinquished that power a second time. And so the reason why I give you this 15 or 20 minute long lecture about the history of republics, Rome, American, is because right now it seems like this is kind of what the people want. Like we saw right now, around 50% of young Americans in this country think that now is the time for a leader like Cincinnatus or Washington or Lincoln to rise up and save the republic. And it seems like they want that leader to be Trump. So time will tell, who's to say, but it's a difficult situation. That might just be, in fact, what we need to save the republic. We have seen the far left, these anti-American, radically progressive subversives, they have weaponized every single facet of power they can to try to rip this republic apart. And you are seeing, for better or for worse, I won't even cast a judgment here. For better or for worse, you are seeing young Americans, old Americans, middle-aged Americans are rising up and saying, listen, Trump, we need you to save the republic by whatever means necessary. If that means ignoring this guy or this body or this, the republic is at stake. A lot of people are saying this is our Cincinnatus moment. This is our Washington moment. This is our Lincoln moment. If a leader does not step up and rise up to the occasion, as sometimes brave men have to do, the republic will be gone. Maybe at this point, that's what it's going to take to really put America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, what I would like to do is take a look at some of these super chats. I want to say thank you, everybody, for being here today on Rumble as well as on YouTube. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our super chats. It's been a crazy day. I told you it was going to be a crazy broadcast today. And I think I've almost got them up. Yes, I do, in fact. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our very first super chat of the day. I'm dying to know what you folks have to say about all of this. But you know, when we do super chats on this broadcast, we've got to go super patriot MAGA mode. So now we are, okay, now patriot MAGA mode activated. Here we go. Okay. Our first super chat of the day is from Phoenix Ashes Level Up. He said, just wanted to be the first super chat of the day. You give me a reason to watch YouTube today. Real ones recognize real ones. Real recognizes real. Real recognizes real. Dial it in, Patriot. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. First super chat of the day. Thank you very much. Franklin Rowe, he says, thank you, Matt. You're one hell of a one-man army. Listen, hey, sometimes we say it's a one-man show. It's a one-man army. Listen, hey, we've got the Morse Force. We've got the Morse Force. We've got the Special Morses. We've got the Delta Morse. Some people even say that we even have Mossad, our intelligence apparatus. We have the Mossad intelligence apparatus. So we have all the levels, okay? We've got all the bases covered. Thank you, folks, for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of the community. We have a super chat from Zion War. He says, Morse Force, heck yeah, coming again to save the day. Morse Force. Morse Force, there it is. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have a super chat here from New Phase 4T. He says, FYI, I am a she, her, but New Phase sounds much cooler than Tammy. Thank you for your astute news coverage and geeky references. Gold MAGA hat, please. Okay, I need, you're right. Gold tie, gold MAGA hat. I got to do it. That would look good. That would be a good look. By the way, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Wham bam. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I appreciate. I will remember. I'm good with names. I never forget it. I never forget somebody. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tammy. We have a super chat here from Phoenix Ashes Level Up. He says, word on the streets here in Phoenix is that Arizona is going to be the next state for ICE. Wait till they uncover the fraud here. It outdoes the Somali fraud. Well, listen, let's put some numbers here. Okay, you remember 12 months ago when President Trump first stepped back into the White House, how many ICE agents did we have across the entire country? The number is 4,500. Well, because of the funding we got from the big, beautiful bill, the one big, beautiful bill, the Trump administration has now hired an extra 12,000. So they're going from 4,500 to 16,500. That's like a pretty big bonus. That's a pretty big step up there. That's a pretty big increase. So hey, if these liberals, if they thought it was bad already, just wait until the new ICE agents hit the streets. You just wait. You thought 2.6 million deportations in 2025. You thought that number was okay. It's enough. It's not enough. Okay, listen, 2026. We got the new guys, boots on the ground. Let's go. Send them out. Send them out. Thank you very much. That's right. How could I forget? We have the Air Morse. We have the Air Morse, Delta Morse, the Morse Force, the Secret Morses, and we have Morsad. How could I forget about the Air Morse? That's right. Thank you for reminding me. Even I forgot. Thank you. We have a super chat here from Paul Beers. He says, you come on as we over here begin heading to bed. Continue your work, love your stuff, and keep the grind going. Paul Beers, this is not $50. This is 50 euros. 50 euros. You know, hey, listen, in a couple months, I'm going to be over there in Europe. In about 3 months. Yeah, 3 months exactly. I'm going to be in Germany for like 2 weeks visiting the German in-laws. I'm just hoping I don't get arrested. You know how some of these European authorities are. I'm a prominent right-wing commentator on the internet. I don't know. I'm just hoping I don't get snatched up by the Bundeswehr. Okay, I'm a little bit worried. Hey, thank you, Mr. Beers. Thank you. We'll see here. We'll see what happens. Thank you very much. That's a big one. Thank you. And also have a good European night. European sleep tight. Andrew Johnson, he says, the EU is a liability, not an ally. I always like to draw a distinction. I love the Europeans. I love them. I love the people. But a lot of the leaders here, the European Union leadership structure, maybe I'm not the biggest fans of them. We have a super chat here from Sun-Kissed Girl says, as someone with 3 chronic illnesses, I've never been comfortable with China making all my medication. Oh, thank you for reminding me, by the way. Thank you for that super chat. We all saw how dangerous it is, how severe of a national security threat it is to have China make all of our crap, all of our personal protective equipment, medical supplies, medicine, proper, our toys and gadgets and gizmos and iPhones and whatever else. Because what happens, the second China decides that maybe they don't like us so much, or there's a geopolitical strife or chaos or global pandemic, China says, actually, we need to preserve supplies for us. We are done sending medicine and hazmat suits and masks and toilet paper over to the United States. It's a pandemic. We need to keep it here for our people. China first. They say China first. Okay. So this very obviously, anyone with half a brain understands this is a serious national security threat. We saw the way in which this can pop up just like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, less than half a decade ago, we saw firsthand example what can go wrong. But still, some people like to pretend that having China make all of our crap is not an issue. It is an issue. Very clearly, it is an issue. China number one. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. We have a super chat here from Patricia Luna. She says, during yesterday's live stream, absolutely loved your hand and face gestures when you played the church videos. You be you, Matt. Yeah, I'm a little bit I'm a little bit emotive. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit crazy. I'm crazy. What can I say? I'm a little bit crazy. At least somebody enjoys it. At least somebody appreciates it. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Mrs. Luna. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you sincerely very much. Good to see you. You're here every day. Thank you very much. We have a super chat here from Mini Booger. He says, Starmer just approved a super Chinese embassy to be built in Yeah, we saw it. I know the basement is right next to to the data center and all the super secret cables. Yep. Yep. Starmer. It almost seems like Starmer is not exactly the sharpest guy. Has anybody else kind of made that observation? Yeah. Now we have a big super chat here from Pin King. He says, breaking, JD Vance and Usha Vance are expecting a baby boy, their fourth child. Great. That's happy news. Good for them. Good for them. Good for them. We love a baby. We love babies. You love a good baby. This is from Clank. I'm a tank. He says, Russia falsely claims the entire Arctic as part of Russia already as part of some undersea landmass. Yeah, there's that. Did you also see that China, they said, China came out the other day and said that they are a near Arctic country. And because they are a, quote, near Arctic country, that they ought to have some rights to the Arctic. It's like, dude, if China is a near Arctic country, then also so is every country in Europe. Then probably Italy. Probably Spain is a near Arctic country. If China is trying to claim that they are a near Arctic country, you'd have Japan, you'd have Korea, you'd have every country in Europe, you'd have Bulgaria. Bulgaria is now terminologically a near Arctic country. So therefore they have some right to all the shit up in the Arctic. Sorry, I'm swearing. Sorry. Yeah, China, listen, nobody's buying it. Sorry, brother. Sorry, my Chinese brother. We have a super chat here from Kevin Stankiewicz. He says, maybe a secret Putin's Russian and Trump's America trade and peace deal. Russia gets Ukraine and USA gets Greenland. You know, it's funny you say that. I was actually thinking about something like that the other day. I don't know. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes? I saw a report come out earlier today that said that Trump's negotiation team is 99% of the way to achieving peace in Ukraine and Russia. 99% of the way. I don't know. I feel like we've heard that 100 times. We've heard that 100 times, so I'm not exactly holding my breath. But I don't know. Allegedly, there's some big breakthrough that's being made here. Thank you, Kevin. Frickin' Brian, he says, the correlation of F around to find out is linear on the Trump axis. Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly a hard mathematical equation to understand. No, it is not. It's a pretty simple graph there. Thank you, frickin' Brian. Andrew Jackson, he says, Macron got a black eye from his husband. Yeah, he was wearing those sunglasses. Why do you think he was hiding under those glasses? Hey, Macron, is your beautiful hot wife? Is your beautiful wife? I don't know. Hey, did you walk into a doorknob? You know what it must have been? He probably walked into a doorknob. That's what must have happened. Those doorknobs in Europe, they are crazy. There's something else. European doorknobs are something else. You got to watch out for those doorknobs. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. This is from Tim. He says, lol, bet China doesn't want to get involved with all of the European Union's problems. They do have a lot of problems. Yeah. Yes, they do. Kevin Stankiewicz again, he says, if the not Great Britain tries to block our needed acquisition of Greenland, then President Trump should liberate all of the colonies of Britain around the Americas, including Bermuda, UK Virgin, and the Cayman. You know, I would imagine that all of these countries have, or at least they think they have, some ace up their sleeve. We saw a report in the Economic Times about a month ago that said that the European Union and the UK, because the UK is not part of the European Union. So the European Union and UK, they are conspiring. If they need to, if they feel like they must, they are able to dump, I forget how many hundreds of billions of dollars worth of U.S. Treasury bonds. Anyway, if they were to dump all of these U.S. Treasury bonds that they are collectively holding, it would, to some degree, have a negative impact on the U.S. economy. And so I'm sure there's all of these backroom threats behind closed doors that we never get to listen to. These conversations being had between Macron and Starmer and Trump and who else, Merz in Germany, saying, hey, listen, if you do this, I'm going to do that. If you do that, I'm going to do this. I'm sure a lot of these conversations are pretty nasty that go on outside of the public eye. I'm sure. I bet they're pretty crazy. We have a super chat here from Iron Sticks. He says, F around, F Europe, not the people. I love the people. I love the people. I like the Europeans. Maybe I shouldn't like them. Maybe I like them too much. I can't help it. I like the European people. Most of them, not all of them. Some of them, I assume, are good people. Some of the Europeans, I assume, are good people. Some of them, perhaps not all of them. Hey, thank you very much. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything else over here. Am I missing any super chats? Can I tell you something? Listen, when I'm getting ready to go to bed, I'm laying in bed. It's nighttime. It's 10 p.m. I go to bed early. And I'm laying in bed. I'm trying to fall asleep, and I'm thinking to myself, did I miss that guy's super chat? Oh my gosh, I missed a $5 super chat. You guys keep me up at night. Listen, it eats away at me. It drives me insane. I feel so bad. I'm riddled with guilt. I'm a nervous wreck. I'm a train wreck. I'm laying in bed. I think 7 hours ago, I missed a super chat. And then I'm awake all night. Then it ruins my sleep. So listen, I cannot afford, for my own mental health, I cannot afford to miss any of these super chats. So I'm going to try to get all these ones here. We've got a super chat here from who in the what? We have one from Mr. Roman. He says, small donation from a fellow Pacific Northwest. I'm a man of many hats, as you can see. I'm a man of many hats. He says, from a fellow Pacific Northwestern brother, keep up the good work. We enjoy your scorched earth commentaries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Shout out the PNW. Yeah, listen, brother, we got to do something here. We need to make the PNW great again. It's going to be tough. It's going to be the battle of our lifetime. But we got to do it. By God, we've got to do it. And we will. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we will. We must. We must. Frickin' Brian, he says, for my ally is the Morse, and a powerful ally it is, said Yoda. May the Morse be with you. May the Morse be with you. May the Morse... Oh, the Morse is powerful with you. Thank you, God. This joke, it's getting a little bit too much. It's getting a little bit stupid. It's okay. We can keep it going. Keep it going. It's okay. Keep it going. Thank you very much. We have a super chat here from Apollo. He says, Space Morse and the Coast Morse. And we just, okay, like I said, we keep on going with it. We keep on going with it. I saw a super chat from Veteran Biker. By the way, I think the super chat dropped off, but I saw it before it dropped off. He said, let's do a collab. You know what? Can I tell you something? Little PSA announcement. I have sworn an oath. I'm never doing any collabs. I'm not working with anybody. I'm not going on anybody's podcast. I'm not talking to anybody until I hit 1 million subscribers. Okay? A man, he must have his goals. I'm a goal-oriented guy. So, what does that mean? Make sure to subscribe. If you want to see me go on this podcast, that podcast, I don't know, maybe someday we work out something. Yeah, I'd love to, but first I have a goal. I'm a man with a goal. I must meet that objective and then I can do it. So someday, tentatively, yes, but for now, no. Rain check. Thank you very much, by the way. Good to see you. Thank you very much. We got to hit 1 million. And I think the final super chat of the day, it is from Mr. Schroeder, Herr Schroeder. Although I think he's an American, not a German. He says, Stella time, nice job today. I could probably have a Stella. Yeah, I think I have earned a Stella. Just one. I don't drink too much. Maybe I'm going to have a Stella later tonight. But of course, first, listen, we need to have our evening broadcast. Okay, folks, this is actually a great segue. Mr. Schroeder, thank you very much. Listen, here's the deal. We are about 2 hours behind schedule today because we were waiting for President Trump to finish up with his press conference. Okay, so we are 2 hours behind schedule, which means, I'm going to be back for an evening broadcast tonight at 6 p.m. Western, 9 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m. Western, 9 p.m. Eastern. I will be back We're a little bit late, though. We got to kind of do the best with what we have today, okay? So 6 Western, 9 Eastern. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap for this broadcast, but I will be back in 4 hours and 15 minutes. I will be back, okay? So I'll see you soon. Everybody, I want to say thank you very much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe on Rumble. Oh, you know what? Hold up. I missed a super chat in Rumble. Pause. From Kittenhead says, my husband and I listen to you every day. Shout out all the married couples. Shout out the husbands. Shout out the wives. Shout out the trad wives, the traditional wives. Shout out the traditional husbands. You're living a nice, beautiful, God-blessed, traditional marriage. We love to see it. Shout out all the married couples. Thank you very much, Kittenhead. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And Roland Mix, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be a wrap. I'll see you guys in 4 hours. Thank you very much. God bless. Stay safe. I will be back before you even realize I was gone. See you folks later tonight. Until then, thank you very much.